Okay, just real quickly, before we pray and go on, I have to tell you this. In 1978, when your parents were just being born, uh, there was a radio station called Transworld Radio, and it was in Bonaire, an island, and it was in Monte Carlo, like the Formula race, and which is in Europe, on the coast and Riviera there. And Transworld Radio was at the forefront of getting the gospel into the world, and their studios broadcast the Bible and evangelistic messages in every language of the world, and they timed, how they bounced it in so it would go to the countries at the right time. And for decades, they'd been doing this since World War II, they kept track of everyone that responded. And I was in college, just like you, in 1978, and I got an invitation. I had been supporting a guy named Brother Andrew and sending him money, and he wrote a book, you probably heard of it, God's Smuggler, and he used to write me letters, and he invited me to go on a trip with him to take Bibles in. So I got all excited, and I started raising money to go smuggling Bibles, and it was my junior year in college, and I was all excited. And then it turned out that Brother Andrew's group was going in a country that I didn't have a visa to, so I had to jump to another group. So I didn't go with Brother Andrew, even though I supported him, we were friends, and we wrote and all that stuff. So I went with a German outfit, and they told me that I was going to go with 7 German-speaking students, and I would be the only English speaker, and they were going to deliver a Bible to every person in all the Islamic countries that had written to Transworld Radio. But they said it's a very hard mission because 6,000 people have written to us. We have 6,000 Arabic Bibles. We have wrapped all 6,000 Arabic Bibles in brown paper and tied string on them. All of them are ready to be mailed, but we have to take them into the easiest Arabic country to get into, which is Morocco. And so they said you have to go with the team and drive this trailer and this Mercedes bus with the trailer with 6,000 wrapped up Bibles inside brown grocery bags in the trailer. And they said, but you have to cross the border into Morocco where they search you, and if they find it, you will go to jail. I mean, when you're a junior in college, sounds like fun, right? Doesn't it sound exciting? And so we did. The 8 of us. We drove 6,000 kilometers to deliver 6,000 Bibles, and we crossed, the most beautiful, I could describe it all day, cross Switzerland on the highways, cross France, the Costa del Sol of Spain, go to Malaga, and we were at Gibraltar. We crossed at Gibraltar, and finally, I was the driver. That's why I was on the team, because I was a truck driver before I went to school, and so I just was a driver, and so I drove, and had drove so much that it was fun. And I could tell you stories about that all day, but we got to the border, and we got in, and it was totally a miracle, because the Lord timed our getting there. By the way, we parked in our car with 6,000 Bibles in it, and everybody was sweating. All of them were figuring how long before their mother would die because they were in prison and never contacted her again. Everyone was thinking all this stuff. Me, I was driving, and I was watching, and I could see 6 cars in front of us. In the front car, they opened the trunk, they opened the hood, they opened all the doors, they took out the seats, they unbolted the seats of the car and took them out. They took the carpet out, and they were looking for stuff. They were looking for smuggling. And I thought, you don't have to unbolt anything. Just open the back door, and you'll see 6,000 Bibles. And then I thought, wait a minute. Every one of those Bibles has a person's name written in Arabic and their home address. Do you realize Transworld Radio was risking every known contact in the Arab world that had any questions about Christianity? They were, who thought of that, Of course, I'm a college kid. You just do what you're told. And so I was sitting there thinking, I said, Lord, if they even opened the back door, 6,000 not even saved people. Now remember, I said angels don't lead churches. What do angels do? Do you remember what it says in the last verse of Hebrews chapter 1? It says, aren't angels ministering spirits who watch over those who shall be heirs of salvation? You know what one of the things angels do? They protect people that haven't gotten saved yet, that God knows are going to respond to the gospel. That's interesting. So I'm not teaching Hebrews, so I'll just say that. But I'm saying, Lord, I'm a little concerned about these 6,000 people that are going to get put in jail. And so I was having this thought, and I was holding all 8 of the passports because the driver, I'd watched the scene. I mean, they're wearing machine guns, they're wearing these dark uniforms with those French-looking hats, the Moroccan, and they march up with their machine gun and say something, and everybody gets out of the car, and the driver hands the passports. I had seen it. When they get all done with taking the car apart, they hand back the passports, and they drive away into Morocco. So I'd watched car 1, car 2, we were car 6, car 3, car 4. By the time we got to car 5, they were sticking wires into the gas tank, trying to see if anything's floating in there that they're smuggling in. They're on rollerboards underneath the car, looking under, like at the exhaust pipes. These soldiers are doing that. And I thought, they don't have to do any of that to us. I mean, we're this giant long bus and then this trailer full of brown paper bags to the ceiling. Do you know how many 6,000 Bibles? That's a lot. So, come up to the border gate, my turn, put it in park, had my passports in my hand, reached to the handle and went, the door wouldn't open. I thought, oh, they're going to think I'm resisting, inspection. So I started pushing, and it gave a little, and then I went like this, and I looked over, over the window and looked. The soldier had his knee like this. He was holding my door shut. He was like this, going, so I thought, what is he looking at? And I looked over, and it was 11:59. And the second hand was going on the clock. Did you know clocks weren't digital in the old days? They actually had hands that pointed at numbers. None of you have ever seen one of those. A clock. Look in a museum. And so here's this clock. And he's looking, holding my door shut. I mean, I had the passports almost touching his face. And as soon as it hit 12, there was this bzzz, and all the soldiers and the new crew. And I'm still in the car. And the soldier gets up and he goes, you know how long a Mercedes bus is and that trailer? And he was, boy, was he crisp. He had his new uniform on. And he just said, Americans, never even let us get out of the car. We drove in. So I said, this is going to be a great trip. We're already having supernatural protection. They took 5 cars apart in front of me. And because the Lord timed us to be at 11:59, well, what about this guy? Well, Transworld Radio knew there were 6 born-again Christians in Morocco in 1978. And they said, there's one in the city of Fez, F-E-S, Fez. You can look it up on the map. Fez, Meknes, Casablanca, all these wonderful cities. And so we drove in to Fez. But they said, we can't tell you his address because if they captured you, they would kill him. Because he is the person that receives these 6,000 Bibles and he knows how to get them distributed. So he's the most important person for the Lord in Morocco. So we're not going to tell you his address. I said, oh, great. How many people live in Fez? They said, oh, I don't know, 125,000. They said, but if the Lord wants you to get the Bibles to him, you'll find him. I said, oh, good. I'm just a dumb American college student driving a van with 7 other sitting ducks, around Morocco with 6,000 illegal contrabands. To make a long story short, instantly, and don't think this happens to everyone all the time, because it's never happened to me before, but I was driving, I said, hey, what do you guys think we should do? And one of the people said, we should pray. So we all just parked inside the country on the outside of Fez, and we prayed. And when we all had finished praying, one person said, boy, I know where we're supposed to go. I said, really? You know where he is? They go, oh. And we started driving, and all of a sudden another one says, it's that road. And so I was the driver. Do you know anything about Moroccan cities? They look like the old city of Jerusalem if you've been there yet. the roads got narrower and narrower. The buildings started closing in. And I'm the driver, and I knew I could not back up very far with that trailer behind me. And it was starting to get narrow enough that I was having them pull in the mirrors. And each person said, one by one, I'm sure we're supposed to go this way. And we'd drive a little bit, and none of them had any other piece. And finally, the last one says, I think we should go this way. And the road had gotten so narrow, we were in the souk. You know what that is? That's the central market. And we pulled into the town square, and it was my turn, because I was the 8th person. And I said, well, I have no feelings about what we're supposed to do, so I'm going to park, and we should pray again. And so we all bowed our heads in this big Mercedes bus with the trailer in front of the market. And at the instant we bowed our heads, you know what that is, the call to prayer. Morocco's very observant Muslim country. I mean, people came from everywhere. Most of them wearing the complete black, outfit. It was just like, it just looked like you wouldn't believe. It was just a wave of black outfitted people, because we had not only parked at the market, it was the central mosque of Fez. And they were all streaming by us, and they crawled over the trailer hitch. They were brushing against the trailer. They were brushing against the front of the Mercedes. And it was like a river of black humanity, black-garbed humanity. And we were just all sitting there like this, when all of a sudden, a face came up to my window and went, and I looked, and this big smiling face, he said, I can't believe it, in English. He said, I was up on my knees. He said, we were parked here, mosque is here, market's here. He said, I live in the 3rd floor right there. He said, how did you know where I lived? I said, don't ask me. And he said, I was on my knees, and as I got up from my knees, I looked out, and he said, I'd been praying, and he said, Lord, if they're ever going to deliver, they're going to have to deliver during the call to prayer, because everyone will be in the mosque and no one will see them. It's the only time it will work. And he said, when I got up from my knees, he said, I saw the most obvious, gigantic, European, outfit. He said, nobody drives those into the inner city. He said, you get stuck down here. And he said, I knew it was you guys. And he said, we have exactly, 15 minutes while they're in there, all of them on their faces, and they're, on their prayer rugs and everything that they're doing in the mosque. He said, if you can get all those bags up here and leave. And we did. And I thought, what can God do with a person who loves the Lord more than their life? For a person who was one of 6 in the whole country, who was willing to go to jail and probably have his hands cut off, for bringing the infidels' Bibles in. The praying man of Morocco. Now, I don't know his name. Of course, he wouldn't tell us his name. But I will never forget seeing just what he, with his face, he went, if the perfect arrival and delivery could have been set up, only God could do that. See, that is just, in my life, in 1978, was one small slice of a reminder of what God can do. And that's from someone that knows what God's plan is for the church. God's plan is for the church that we do what God called us to do and love Him more than anything else, so that He can do something with us that no one else could do, because that's what He does. And that's the plan He has for you.